Donald Trump has picked his ambassador to Israel. That'll be all of our ambassador to Israel, of course. His name is David Friedman. Does he know anything about being an ambassador? Of course not. Does he have any experience in this realm? Of course not. Who is he? He's a lawyer that Trump knows. He's a bankruptcy lawyer, so Trump would know him, having gone through 6 bankruptcies. What in the world is he getting this position? Let's find out. And David Friedman, who specializes in litigation and bankruptcy law, said in the statement that he would work tirelessly to, quote, strengthen the unbreakable bond between our two countries and advance the cause of peace within the region, and look forward to doing this from the U.S. Embassy in Israel's eternal capital, Jerusalem. What? Okay, now, if you think, oh, Trump appointing another schmuck he knows for a job he's unqualified for, that's not much news these days. Fair enough. If you think, oh, the whole spiel about the unbreakable bond, that's the most normal thing you've ever heard, and nothing wrong with that. Definitely. Okay. When you get to Israel's eternal capital being Jerusalem, well, the rest of the world does not agree, and most importantly, the United States does not agree. Well, up until now. So I'll give you more context on that. But before we get there, let me tell you more of David Friedman's ideas. When they asked him about the two-state solution, that is official U.S. policy, we would love for an Israeli and Palestinian state to live side by side in peace. And that is what we've been working for through Democratic and Republican presidents, including George W. Bush. He says no. He says the answer is not without the approval of the Israelis. If the Israelis don't want to do it, so he doesn't think they should do it. He does not think it is an American imperative for it to be an independent Palestinian state, referring to what he thinks of Donald Trump's position. So, two-state solution, gone. So what's the answer? A one-state solution? Well, we're going to get to that in a second too, but are the Palestinians going to get the vote? If they do, they'll outvote the Israelis. That doesn't seem like a great solution for Israel. The only other solution is they don't get the vote. They just sit there and know their role as occupied people. Now, you can see why that has not been the U.S. position, but apparently that's going to change. Now, more reporting from Huffington Post. Friedman is also considered far-right on issues, including settlement building, and has advocated for the annexation of the West Bank, which Israel captured from Jordan in the 1967 war. So there it is. Annex the West Bank. We have one state. Were the Palestinians ever going to get the vote? Of course not. So what are you going to do with them? I would love for the press to ask David Friedman and Donald Trump, in your grand vision where you annex the West Bank, do Palestinians have any rights at all? Or do you just keep them as subjugated people for the rest of time? To me and to the rest of the world, and previously to every Republican and Democratic administration, that was considered a very, very extreme solution. Well, these are new days. So what has been the U.S. and world position? The Obama administration has been highly critical of Israeli settlement construction in the occupied West Bank and East Jerusalem. Most countries view all Israeli settlements on occupied land that the Palestinians seek for their own state as illegal, because it is illegal by international law. The United States and other powers do not regard Jerusalem as Israel's capital. In addition to the U.S. Embassy, other nations' embassies are in Tel Aviv and do not recognize Israel's annexation of Arab East Jerusalem following its capture in the 1967 Middle East War. Now, it's not to say that Israel's capital can never be Jerusalem. Look, I'm agnostic, so this whole holy land thing drives me crazy. I don't think, if anything, it is unholy, if you ask me. And all it has done is cause more and more war between Muslims, Christians, and Jews for time immemorial. I don't know what part of that land qualifies as holy in that sense. But I know people believe in insane old mythologies. No, my God promised it to me. No, Yahweh gave it to me. No, Allah gave it to me. Okay. But if you're going to have Jerusalem as the capital, that has to be negotiated so that you could actually have peace. If you never negotiate anything and you unilaterally say, I annex all your land and I'm going to declare Jerusalem the capital, even though you think it's your capital, you know what you're going to have instead of peace? War. So don't get surprised. If you like this and you think, yes, let's just crush them, who cares about them? Well, don't be surprised when you get war instead of peace. I'm not saying they should go in that direction. I'm telling you what is the logical conclusion of not us here in the U.S., but the conclusion that they'll reach. If you tell the Palestinians, we will forever subjugate you, what on God's green earth do you think they're going to do? I mean, these right-wingers sound like they're the evil general out of Gladiator, conquered. People should know when they're conquered. What are you're going to keep them as conquered people for what? Centuries? Okay, so by the way, we haven't even gotten to the really crazy stuff about David Friedman. So let me go there. At a June rally for Trump in Jerusalem, Friedman pushed a conspiracy theory about Hillary Clinton aide Huma Abedin, suggesting she had, quote, close connections to the Muslim Brotherhood. Okay, look, the lunatic fringe believes in theories like that. Not just Democrats, not just members of the media, but legitimate Republicans. What used to be the overwhelming majority of the Republican Party would say that's cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. That's just made up from right-wing websites that have been declared hate sites by the Southern Poverty Law Center. And you're going around smearing people because they're Muslim, that they're part of the Muslim Brotherhood and they're going to take over and bring in Sharia law in America. That's crazy. Okay, so I'm not the only one who thinks that. There are many Jewish groups in the country who also believe that, including J Street. J Street is a group that represents Jewish Americans who are for peace. So, and by the way, a just peace that gives Israelis security and the peace of mind of knowing that that state is inviolable and will live and exist forever. Okay, that is their goal. So you don't get to own that goal if you're a right-winger, and I'll get back to that in a second. So what does J Street say about David Friedman? They are, quote, vehemently opposed. Friedman should be, quote, beyond the pale for senators considering who should represent the United States in Israel. And finally, they say this nomination is reckless, putting America's reputation in the region and credibility around the world at risk. So that's a Jewish American group saying, reckless, don't do it. Okay, now I still haven't gotten to the worst part. Here is a quote from David Friedman. He says, finally, are American pro-peace lobby J Street supporters really as bad as Kapos? The answer is actually no, they are far worse than Kapos. Jews who turned in their fellow Jews in the Nazi death camps. That's what he says about fellow Jews in America. Now, understand that 70% of Jewish Americans vote for the Democratic Party fairly consistently. They're, after African Americans, probably the most reliable voting bloc for the Democratic Party in our lifetimes. So you don't see this in the press because you see a lot of right-wing Jewish Americans come out and pretend that they speak for all Jews in America or for all Israelis. And the press loves them and puts a big spotlight on them. But in reality, 70% or more Jews in America are progressives and consistently, decade after decade, vote for the Democratic Party. They do not agree. They are not Kapos, and you do not speak for them. So there's Alan Singer, who's also Jewish and teaches at Hofstra, and he wrote an article today saying, I oppose Trump's nomination for ambassador to Israel, and I am not a Kapo. He said in the article, my father, who died 2 years ago at the age of 94, was a strong supporter of Israel and visited a number of times. He was very disturbed when we discussed the occupation because he believed Jews would not do these things. When I confronted him with reports about the occupation, his response was, those people cannot be Jews. So, now, does Alan Singer or his dad speak for all Jews? No. Do I speak for all Jews? Of course not. But neither does David Friedman. So the idea that the press pushes out that the right wing is more pro whichever country they're from is not true. So, for example, in America, well, you know, I'm for freedom, so I believe in invading Iraq, so I'm more American than you, I'm a patriot. Not remotely true. You're a moron. What you did was, if you were in favor of the Iraq war, you got over 5,000 of our troops killed, brought home in body bags. That is not a pro-American position. You got 50,000 of them maimed. That is not a pro-American position. You cost us trillions of dollars. That is not a pro-America position. You destroyed our deficit, you destroyed our reputation, and you destroyed the Middle East. And on top of that, what did we get? ISIS. That is not a pro-American position. That is a dumb right-wing position that hurts America. Saying that you're going to annex the West Bank is not more of a pro-Israeli or pro-Jewish position. That is a dumb right-wing position that is going to hurt a lot of Israelis and the country overall. So everybody disagrees. I get that. I hope all reasonable people get that. And if you're watching this, whether you're right wing or left wing or somewhere in the middle, you should understand that. So what I'm asking you to understand, and what I want the press more than anyone else to understand, is right wingers don't speak for everybody. So David Friedman does not speak for all of America. He does not speak for all Jews in America, and he does not speak for everybody in Israel. If you haven't figured it out yet, Israel, like every other country, has a wide range of opinions. There is no one person who speaks for them or represents their best interests. And yes, there is strong disagreement here in the U.S. and in Israel as to what is best for America or for Israel. They are going to do untold damage, not only to America, not only to the world, but yes, to Israel. If you say to Palestinians, you have no hope, we are never going to give you a state, we're going to simply annex your lands, and you're going to like it, I got news for you. They're not going to like it. And it is going to create chaos that we cannot control. And not only is it going to hurt the Palestinians, it's going to hurt the Israelis. Terrible, terrible idea. These people are not what they purport to be. If they think that this is a pro-Israel position, I think they are gravely mistaken. Young Turks. The Young Turks isn't just us, it's also you guys. You make this show possible, and we want to thank you for it, and we want to grow together. We want to be too strong. tytnetwork.com/join. Let's do it.